We are back with another edition here of the Gold Standard. Joe Danneman and Charlie Goldsmith talking Reds and Bengals. We're going to jump right into it, Charlie. Let's talk Reds because I think right now, with 5+ weeks left in the regular season, the Cincinnati Reds are one of the most interesting teams in all of Major League Baseball. I asked you straight up last week. I'll start the show off with a banger right here. Do you think the Cincinnati Reds will make the playoffs in 2025?
The Reds absolutely can make the playoffs. What I'm still worried about is kind of the unexpected, the challenges that we don't quite see yet, or kind of we do now. One of them with Tyler Stevenson heading to the IL. Things we're starting to see, the bullpen depth already being in the forefront. The tricky conversations going on at positions like second base. You're starting to see what the storylines of the season are going to be. This is 1,000% a team that has the ability, the depth, the talent, and the upside to not just make the playoffs, but to show up and do some real damage. But when you don't have a margin for error, you can feel the stress of these games, and there's going to be a lot that has to go right.
You said can. You didn't guarantee anything. Do you like the Reds' chances more than the Mets, or do you think the Mets kind of have the inside track over the Reds at this point?
I would still pick the Mets right now, and I don't love doing the whole predictions thing. I would still lean towards the Mets, even though their rotation depth has been something in the forefront. I think, frankly, their September experience, the superstar power on that team, I think their bullpen's going to snap back into shape, even though it's been struggling here recently. I would still pick the Mets right now, so for what would happen, I would still pick them. But this is absolutely one Reds team that showed up in New York and just kind of handed it to the Mets in two out of the 3 games. It's a Reds team that's in a very good spot that definitely controls its own destiny. And let's see if they can level up and prove they are at that level.
I will say this, the Mets, it seems like their offense is starting to wake up. It went into a terrible 2-week stretch. The question is, can their offense and all those stars carry them to enough wins to hold off the Reds? And I'll say this too, everybody keeps talking about how hard the Reds schedule is the final month of the season. Look at the Mets.
Sure.
Mets have one of the 5 or 6 toughest schedules as well, so it's not like they can cakewalk playing the Rockies and the White Sox to a playoff spot. They're going to have some challenges. I think the biggest challenge for the Reds, and we can talk about so many different aspects of this team, to me it's the bullpen. It's the back end of the bullpen. You start talking about September baseball, and the Reds typically play in games that are very tight, low-scoring games. You have to have guys who can close out games. Tony Santillan, Emilio Pagan have been used a lot so far. Can Chase Burns be a guy that the Reds can turn to in the final month when he comes back from the injured list to be a guy they can throw in the bullpen, throw in high leverage spots, and be a difference maker for this team down the stretch?
That's the idea. That's the plan. They're also going to be cautious with him. Flexor strains, they're always things that make you nervous. And yes, the Reds definitely at least have avoided the worst case scenario here with Chase Burns, but they're going to have to be closely monitoring and keeping an eye on every warm-up throw he throws as he goes through this progression, on every bullpen pitch that he makes on his road back. There's still a lot of, 1, boxes he has to check to return, and 2, when he's back, they're going to be cautious with him. And then 3, they're going to be cautious with him anyway because he's a rookie who's never pitched in the bullpen before. So there's a lot there, but when you've seen like Luis May get back-to-back 8th-inning opportunities and then get sent down to AAA, yes, this team needs help. I trust Burns to throw strikes and get strikeouts. I think he will help, but it's not like they can just unleash him in the bullpen. It's not like they can even unleash him with the rehab progression he's going through, but the hope is there.
So you and I both do segments with Tony Pike and Austin Elmore on Cincy 360 on ESPN 1530, and they asked me this week, what's your biggest concern for the Reds? And I said it was Tony Santillan and Emilio Pagan running out of gas, considering how many times that Terry Francona has had to turn to those 2 players to try to close out games. And they have both been great this year for the Reds. I don't think anybody can argue that Tony Santillan and Emilio Pagan have performed above expectation this year. But you saw it in the Brewers series. It looks like they're getting fatigued. It looks like they're running out of gas with what is the 5 most important weeks this franchise has had in probably 5 years. So they said, what's the resolution? I said, well, Terry Francona is going to have to throw a guy like Graham Ashcraft out there in high leverage innings and see what happens. And then Terry Francona puts Graham Ashcraft into a high leverage spot against the Angels, and it turns into not good results. So Can Chase Burns, this is the other part of the question with Chase Burns, can he go into high leverage situations? Do you have confidence that this guy can step in when he's ready in the 8th, maybe the 9th inning of a playoff chase and be a factor, a difference maker, a guy that can handle that kind of moment, considering he's been a starter his whole life?
Kind of it doesn't matter because they're at that point of the depth chart anyway. It's like in 2023, like you could ask me, Charlie, can Nick Martini really be this team's first baseman? And it's like, well, we're there. So ready or not, that's where things are at.
Answer.
Again, I think Chase Burns' strike throwing ability, which has been consistent even all the way through this professional season, has been the key for him. I think Nick Martinez, the plan is for him to be a part of this mix as well. When Nick Lodolo comes back, I still think the most likely move is that Nick Martinez goes to the bullpen as well. And he could give you multiple innings. He would add to the versatility of the group. If there was a day that like Santillan and Pagan were off, throw Martinez for the 8th and 9th. Like, there are different things you can do there where he could help. That was the plan at the trade deadline. But so many moving pieces, so many pieces that just haven't clicked. Like, Taylor Rogers was supposed to be a huge addition for this team. Flopped. At the beginning of the season, I would have sat on this desk and said, by late August, multiple guys of prospects, Zach Maxwell, Luis May, Connor Phillips, Joe LaSorsa, guys like that, Lyon Richardson, multiple of those guys will ascend to the point of being high leverage guys, and none of them are there right now. So they're still looking for answers. I'd even give Brent Suter more of a shot until some other guys come back and solidify themselves in high leverage opportunities. But I agree, it's a concern right now.
I do like the makeup of what the Reds bullpen would look like with Nick Martinez and Chase Burns supplementing Tony Santillan and also Emilio Pagan. So we're taping this after the Reds series against the Angels before they go to Arizona and play the Diamondbacks, and Charlie will be there to cover that series. It felt like Terry Francona was trying to limit the number of innings and exposure of Santillan and Pagan in that series, and the Reds were still able to win it. But now let's flip it to the offense, and I think one of the real revelations here the last couple of weeks has been what Noelvi Marte has provided this team. All of a sudden, it feels like this lineup is longer than it's been all season long. That's with Miguel Andujar, who's hit well since he's come to Cincinnati. Spencer Steer's performing like we thought he could, being a run producer. And Noelvi Marte right now is hitting like a middle-of-the-lineup star. We've talked all season long, in the offseason as well. The Reds have to find an outfield right-handed bat. Have they found it now with Noelvi Marte?
Yes. And it's been a long road to get here, but with this stretch that Noelvi Marte is having right now reminds me of, I go back to like Tyler Stevenson had this big hit against the Padres in July of his rookie year, and you just look at it, you look at what he'd been doing, and you go, yep, he's in. Spencer Steer, I remember in Boston in 23, I believe he won Player of the Week that week. Yep, he's in. Matt McClain during that win streak in 2023 during the summer, I think that was the moment where it all came together, and it's like McClain's one of the dudes. TJ Friedel, I remember he had some walk-offs against the Rangers in 2023. You're in the club. And the Reds haven't had a ton of rookies since then, and I know Noelvi was technically a rookie in 23, but he's still 23 years old right now. He's having that moment right now. Like, you'd also like to see him walk more, but he is mostly swinging at strikes. Right field's not perfect yet, but I think it's helped him. When you look at the power, the fluidity, the athleticism, and then also he'll just take his hit to right field. He's keeping that opposite field approach, which has always been the thing for him, one. And two, he's not falling into the trap he fell into last year where I think if I threw him a low away slider, he'd go overextend and try to chase that. Yeah. He's cut that out. I think Noelvi Marte is just in the group.
I think it's important for all of us to be transparent, and I was very transparent with my take on Noelvi Marte. And I'll say it like this. I never doubted that the guy had potential. I was always, okay, his potential might be more than his production, and now the production has matched the potential. And Noelvi Marte feels like a guy that can help carry this team over the finish line the final 5+ weeks of the regular season to get them to the playoffs. There's a name you mentioned I want to ask you about, Matt McClain. The big question is, what do the Reds do with Matt McClain at this point? Because it's almost September. He's not hitting. He's not performing like we thought he would. If you're the Reds, what do you do with Matt McClain here the final 5+ weeks?
This might be a hot take. I keep playing Matt McClain on almost a daily basis. So when the Reds traded for Brian Hayes, like it was a bit of a controversial move at the time. And I said, well, there are the risks there. What I appreciated and respected about it was that the Reds went all in a commitment to a vision, and that I always respect and appreciate any team that has a very specific idea of what it wants to be, how it best believes it can win, and they just pursue that. They're pursuing this whole clean defense baseball identity, and Matt McClain gives you that. Now, what he's not giving you is enough offensive production. He arguably cost the Reds the game on Saturday against the Brewers because of the missed chances he had offensively. But Gavin Lux maybe cost the Reds the game on Friday against the Brewers with his defense at second base. When you look at the options at second base, I am still prioritizing defense because of Lux's flawed glove at that position, and I believe in Lux's bat. I'll continue to plant my flag there. But I don't think he's the option to be your everyday second baseman. Espinal, not the option. You know how much I love Sal Stewart. I don't see him as an impact second baseman right now. That would be a massive risk. I'll give McClain some days off to make sure he's fresh, because I'm sure coming back from that injury and the fatigue and the grind of the whole season is a part of this story.
Yeah.
If there are matchups like pitchers who are good at attacking him or attacking anyone away, I give him maybe a day off there too. But for the most part, I keep playing him.
Are you worried at all about Matt McClain's future? Because so much of the conversation is about what can you get this year? Can the Reds get past the finish line and get to the playoffs? But Matt McClain is supposed to be a foundation piece for this organization going forward. Are you still all in on Matt McClain can be a star here in Cincinnati?
I talked to Eugenio Suarez at the All-Star game and asked, what happened in 2021? And he was like, the shoulder. He was coming off a major shoulder injury that originally happened in 2020. I think we're going to look back, and that's just how we're going to view this season with him. But even so, I know the offensive stats are bad, but he's still one of the best defensive second basemen in the league. He still can run into one. He's having a fantastic year on the bases. This is a solid floor for a second baseman. And frankly, if you would offer me Matt McClain or Jonathan India this season, and India's in Kansas City, I'd take McClain this season. So there's still enough there, and I'm just going to keep believing in McClain just because that's how I see him. That's how I evaluate him. I think he's going to make multiple All-Star teams. It's still what I think. This isn't his year, but because of the things he's still bringing to the table and how that fits your identity, your vision, and the way you've gone all in on this is how you have to win, that's still a plan that Matt McClain's a part of.
30-plus games left in the Reds' regular season. They have to, I don't know what the number is. Is it 16? Is it 17 wins? Is it 18? Is it more? I don't know what the number is, but I think a lot of people are going to be pointing to the stretch to start September. The first 10 days in September, where you're playing the Toronto Blue Jays, you're playing the New York Mets, the team the Reds are chasing right now, and then you go back to the West Coast and play the San Diego Padres, who right now are playing as well as anybody in Major League Baseball. 10 days in September to start the final month. When you look at this, and if you're watching on streaming, you can see it right now on the screen. Is this going to be the 10-day stretch, do you think, that defines what the final month will look like for the Cincinnati Reds?
In a lot of ways, of course, because especially, hopefully, by that stretch, you have Nick Lodolo and you have Chase Burns back. So when you have your pitching plan as good as it's going to be, and the whole idea is that the upside of your team is your pitching, can you go match fire for fire in that moment and kind of show playoff baseball and what your version of that is? But I'm also going to go back to where I started this whole conversation, which is, you don't know what the 10 days are going to be. I always go back to 2023, this exact time of year. I still call it the road trip from hell. They literally flew into the eye of a hurricane in Los Angeles. Then they went to Arizona, and on the plane, which had a 10-hour delay, half the rotation got COVID. Votto got hurt, McClain got hurt. I believe a couple bench players got banged up, and you return, and it's and we like Carson Spires, but you're calling up Carson Spires from AA, and it's what's going on? Michael Marriott's here. Chasen Shreve is here. Martini gets what's going on here? I don't know. The Reds are going to have a stretch like that. It's, again, the things you can't predict that's going to end up deciding this. And, again, one of those things is now Stevenson getting hurt. Banfield's up. Let's see what happens. I think you should expect more of that. And I think that's going to be, whenever that is, the stretch that decides the season.
34 games left in the Reds' regular season as we tape this before they go to Arizona. They're at 67 wins, so the number, and I'll make sure I get on record here, I would have to think 19 or 20 minimum, getting them to 86 or 87 wins. You think that's the number minimum that they're going to have to get if they want to have a realistic chance of catching the Mets?
Because I kind of do believe in the Mets still, I think 87 is a pretty good number right now. I don't think the message is going to continue to collapse through the end of the season. I'll go with 87. Again, the Reds definitely have a chance to get there.
87 wins would be 20-14 the final 34 games. It's above the pace they played at throughout the season, but it's not above a pace that I think they can get to. I certainly think they can get to that 87 number, maybe have to go even higher. Okay, let's switch now to the Cincinnati Bengals. As of this taping, the Bengals have played 2 preseason games, getting ready for preseason game number 3, which we know will not feature any of the Bengals starters. Zac Taylor confirmed that the week of the game. Everybody's talking about the defense, Charlie. We all know the defense has to be better for this team to get back to the playoffs and be dangerous in the playoffs. I'm going to ask you a question here about what we're hearing from inside the locker room and what we're hearing from the Bengals head coach and then what we're seeing, okay? So Zac Taylor and the locker room continues to tell us that they're not showing anything on defense. It's been very vanilla. That's the word that I'd like to send straight to the moon when talking about defenses.
I like vanilla.
You like vanilla? I like the flavor. I don't like it using it to describe a defense, especially the way the Bengals are playing right now. Okay, is that an excuse? Or is that an explanation? Because they're 2 very different things. Excuse or explanation, the Bengals aren't showing the playbook on defense, and that's why they've looked not great so far in the 2 preseason games.
I think it's a bit of an excuse when you look at how many individual one-on-one matchups they're losing. But I kind of see what Zac Taylor's doing, and he wouldn't admit to this. He wouldn't, I asked him about it. He didn't go there. I think the most important thing of what this training camp and preseason has been anyway is just have the defense entering the season feeling good about itself. You got your chest up, you got your posture nice and strong, you're wearing a nice shirt that you like, and you feel good walking into the season. We've all been there. We can all relate to that. And just the different way you feel when you're feeling confident versus when you're feeling down on yourself.
Sure.
It could be very easy for the Bengals defense to feel down on itself right now. And then it'd be very easy for the whole team to feel down on itself right now. I think what they're trying to set a tone, and this is what head coaching is all about, trying to convince yourself that it's not as bad as it looks, because whether or not that's true, the most important thing is that you believe that. That's another example of Zac Taylor's got a lot of head coaching to do.
Yeah.
He's got to make this defense feeling good about itself. He's got to have everyone walking proud into the season with your chest puffed out, and you got the nice new haircut. You want to keep that first day of school vibe without dreading what could be some rocky moments to come. I think that's Zac Taylor's biggest priority.
There's no doubt confidence is a big part of what the Bengals need to be better in 2025. We've seen the energy, the attitude's been different at training camp, and these guys continue to say what you see during training camp practice is more indicative of what we'll see week 1 in Cleveland. I'll continue to say this. No matter if they look good or look bad in the preseason, I'm not going to judge this team's defense until I see it in the regular season. And the problem is week 1 might not be a great litmus test for this team because they're playing an offense that's going to be extremely limited with Joe Flacco at quarterback, and we don't know what the running back situation is going to be. They don't have wide receivers, although Jerry Jeudy had a nice season last year that can really, really test the Bengals. But we'll see. And that's where I'm going to stick with it. We'll see. We'll see what they look like when the regular season comes. But I'm with you. I feel like at this point, if you had dudes, if you had guys, if you had players, you would be making plays in the preseason. Even if you're not showing up the scheme, you would still have guys winning at the point of attack, getting into the backfield, taking the right angles, making plays in open space, and that's just not happening right now. To me, that has to be a concern for Cincinnati Bengals fans. Okay, quickly, stock up, stock down. Let's pick one player that you think training camp, at the start to where they are now, you'd say, okay, that guy's exceeded expectations. I'm stock up on who?
The problem is there kind of aren't enough of these guys.
Yeah.
That's kind of the story of camp. It's that no one's popped in the way that Chase Brown did last year. Chase Brown's popped again, or that Cam Taylor-Britt did in 2023. The best answer for this question that I'm going to go with is Shamar Stewart. I think
I like that.
He's
answer.
going to play significantly more snaps than I would have said at this point a month ago. There are going to be flawed plays. I remember a play in Philadelphia where he ends up just kind of crumpled up on the ground because he kind of has a bad move and he loses that badly. There are going to be moments like that. But he can make so many types of plays. And then just the speed, I think, is going to be such a big impact and difference maker, something that this team needs up front. I think he's helped himself the most this training camp.
Stock down.
Stock down. I mean, you know who you have any right guard thoughts?
Well, I wanted to go there. I'm glad you went there.
It's so scary.
It is. But is it scary? Because every NFL team, and this is a problem across the league, you're going to find maybe 2 or 3 teams in the NFL that really love their offensive line across the board. The rest of the league is going to have question marks. And the fact that the Bengals really right now only have one question mark, I think is an okay place to live. Certainly, when the franchise relies on Joe Burrow being healthy and Joe Burrow being protected, you want to make sure all 5 spots are locked up with what you think is at least solid. And right now, right guard is not solid. It's a huge question mark, and that's a concern. So how big of a concern is it? If we're going to say stock down is the right guard position, and that's everybody that's been there at right guard, how big of a concern should it be for Bengals fans that they haven't had this figured out here as we approach opening day?
Yeah, expectations were low entering training camp, frankly, and it's underperformed my expectations for Bengals. The Bengals' right guard outlook would be by this at this point. I talked to Lucas Patrick for a while yesterday. What he stressed is how many adjustments he's been making and the challenge of figuring out the scheme and things he's had to learn and mistakes he's been making. Like, he kind of sounded like a rookie. And there have been more of those moments from him than there have been Dylan Fairchild on the other side. Also, Patrick's gotten hurt twice already in camp, and that's a big part of his story. He's missed some notable time over the previous few seasons. They've played Cody Ford more at tackle. He is a guard, but they've played him more at tackle because their swing tackle, Jalen Rivers, is already a guard now because he struggled with speed rushers. You kind of have to have Cody ready to play tackle too because this Amarius Mims hand situation has continued to linger from last season into this season. So there's just not, and now they're circling back with Dalton Reisner, who I think all along they've recognized isn't a reliable player. So that's where they're at guard. It's going to be something they're going to have to overcome all season. And by the way, the fact that stock down is on offense when you could also say stock down for, you know, the entire defensive end room. And we talked positively about Stewart, but Murphy, Osai, and then Hendrickson coming back, getting his sea legs under him. That hasn't been a productive camp. You know, defensive tackle, B.J. Hill's been hurt. Jenkins has had a nice camp, but hasn't performed well in the preseason games. McKinley Jackson's been one of the most disappointing preseason and training camp performers. The linebackers haven't taken that step. Safety's still a mess. The corners have their highs and lows every day. Like, we can look a lot of places, and that's kind of what makes you feel a little anxious heading into the season.
Joe Burrow has saved the day for Cincinnati because a lot of stock down so far at training camp. But I do think the Bengals offense is still in position to be right there with one of the best, if not the best, in the NFL. If you're going to pick out the best offenses, the Lions, the Eagles, the Bills, the Ravens, I think the Bengals are right there, have a shot this year. They're going to need it. They're going to have to score a lot of points. We get it for this team to be successful in 2025. One guy who has popped, his stock has gone to the moon this week because of what he did on Monday Night Football. Mitchell Tinsley scored twice. Mr. Monday Night, Mitchell Tinsley.
Monday Night.
And what a story. A guy goes from community college to Western Kentucky to Penn State, undrafted, goes to Washington, and then goes back to Washington in a Bengals uniform and puts 2 touchdowns on his former team. Okay, here we go. Is Mitchell Tinsley going to make the roster? Because the Bengals have to make their final roster decisions here in the next couple of weeks. One more preseason game. You and I have talked about this over text. You weren't sold on Monday night that Mitchell Tinsley is a lock. Are you changing your mind that Mitchell Tinsley is going to make this team?
So let's say there was a 70-man roster instead of a 53-man roster. If you're just lining it up in that way, I think there are multiple guys, if you could play 70 guys, would play over Mitchell Tinsley just on paper. Like Cam Grandy would get snaps over Mitchell Tinsley. But I think because of the expectation that he would get claimed off the waiver wire, and then the fact that this team's 48th through 55th guys, that's not going to be the case. Like no one's picking up Jackson Kirkland, in my opinion. No one's picking up Howard Cross, in my opinion. Like, because of Mitchell Tinsley's attractiveness, that gives him a very good shot to at least make it through the first cut down over a guy like Cam Grandy, even if Grandy would make a bigger impact. But also, Tinsley hasn't shown he can help you on special teams either. It's still a tough path to find a role for him. What I'm more worried about would be the second waiver wire cut down, because this is a team that will be looking for a lot of help in the trenches after the first cut down day, and then more guys will have to go. So because Tinsley would have a harder time keeping that or establishing a role, I could see him like beating out Grandy at the first cut down. But when they need more trench help at the second cut down, he would be one of the more expendable guys.
Time now for the Gold Rush, where we ask Charlie rapid-fire questions and get his answers to some fun stuff. This is a tease for next week. We're going to play over-under Bengals stats for some of the big names here in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow, touchdown passes, yards, Jamar Chase, the works. We'll do that next week. Today, we're going to continue on with our roster randomness roulette. I think I messed that up, but it's like roster roulette random Bengals. Here
you get the idea.
Where we flip through this, and I land on a Bengal, and Charlie's got to come up with a fun fact about every Bengal I land on. So we've had some fun with this, and we've landed on some pretty random guys so far. So here I go. I have the randomizer working on my computer, and I'm blindly picking, it's Trey Hendrickson.
Oh.
Do you have a fun fact
do.
about Trey Hendrickson?
Trey Hendrickson's my birthday buddy. And so he's standing on the sideline during training camp, and I was just chit-chatting with him. This happens sometimes. And here's my chance. Let's tell him this. I go, hey, Trey, you're my birthday buddy. And he goes, December 5th, let's go. And he goes, man, do you have the problem where you feel like you get less holiday gifts than the rest of your family because your birthday's right next to the holidays? And I said, man, I've never related to an NFL player more.
I didn't know there was a term for sharing a birthday buddy.
I just made that up.
Did you make that up? That's a good thing.
Seems real.
You know who my birthday buddy is? Evan McPherson.
Great.
July 21st. Great, he says. We get all the presents in July. It's cool. You don't have to worry about Christmas in July. All right, next one in the random roster roulette is, you believe it? I landed on Evan McPherson. It's Evan McPherson, who's had a nice camp.
Very nice camp.
Who's performed well in preseason games, had a 54-yarder. In the Bengals' second preseason game, do you have a fun fact about Evan McPherson?
Fun fact about Evan McPherson. You know what's been a big thing for him? The wind. Evan McPherson has learned, talking to Evan over the years, I feel like I've heard him talk about the mental adjustments about wind, and that being something that he's learned a lot about, that he's picked up on. Shout out to the Week 5 kick in 2023 with the swirling wind against the Seahawks as a fun wind kick for Evan McPherson.
I have a fun fact about him. I stopped him in the hallway the other day, and he's a huge golfer. And I said, do you watch any YouTube golf? Because I recently started doing that. He said, are you kidding? Everybody watches YouTube golf. It's all I watch. So he and I are Bryson DeChambeau YouTube channel buddies. Not only birthday buddies, but we also love Bryson DeChambeau. Evan and I are kicking around an idea of he and I, and maybe some other good golfers, because I'm not good, of doing a break 50. So Bryson DeChambeau does this where they play from the front tees, the red tees, and they try to break 50. So Evan McPherson, myself, and maybe some other people here at the station are going to try to do a break 50 challenge here in the coming weeks. That'll be fun.
I'll watch.
He's a good golfer. He said his handicap's down to a 3.
Wow.
He's that good. Okay, here we go. 2 more. Next one is Cordell Volson. He's hurt. Do you want to give one or you want to move on?
I do have one.
Okay, go ahead.
So I went to Northwestern. Northwestern hired the college defensive coordinator from where Cordell went to school.
Okay.
And then he became the head coach when Northwestern had tumult. And through the whole way, Cordell Volson says, man, believe in David Braun. Believe in David Braun. And then I got to tell David that story, and that meant a lot to him, that Cordell from Cincinnati was cheering him on as much as he did.
Shoulder surgery for Cordell Volson. His season's likely over. Yes, it is a bad break for him. How big of a deal is it for the Bengals?
You know what? I know Volson's struggled. At least he was a guy you knew could slot in and play fine football. At least he's proven he can stick on a 53-man roster. And now you're looking at, we could get to these names like Andrew Stuber and Jackson Kirkland and Devin Cochran, who I think might be the Bengals player I've criticized the most. Now you're looking at these guys, and there's a ripple effect there.
There's a guy on here I'm not going to ask you about.
Give it to me.
I've never even heard of this guy. McTelvin Agim?
McTelvin, I don't know if it's a Geem or a Geem. I know his nickname is, I believe, Sosa, which is also just Fosai's nickname, which is a funny situation. Showed up right before training camp. I believe he spent time in Tennessee. You know what? I saw Trey Hendrickson going out of his way to help a Geem through a drill on the individual fields a bit ago. They wanted kind of that bigger body, another option. Hasn't panned out. Maybe Eric Gregory has the edge there in terms of that practice squad spot.
All right, let's do one more because I love this so much. It's so much fun. Okay, one more. We're going to land on the randomizer right here. TJ Slayton. Have we done TJ Slayton yet?
We can now.
TJ Slayton, I've said all offseason, was one of the more under-heralded free agent signings.
He was the free agent signing.
He was the, number one. But I'm saying across the league, obviously it was a big deal here, but people are sleeping on it. 6'5", 340 pounds. is what he's listed as. What's your take on TJ Slayton? Do you have a fun fact?
So, all right, maybe not everyone has NFL Pro, which is the tool I use to sort through all the film and do all that kind of stuff. But if you do have NFL Pro, I have a recommendation. I can show this to you. Pull up TJ Slayton's tackles in the playoffs against the Eagles last season. Best rushing offense that we've seen in a long time. And there's Slayton going crazy. Like, he is like
against the Eagles.
He's like against the Eagles. He is a force, moving guys. All right, maybe once he went too far, he got that personal foul, 15 yards, extended a drive. Maybe we can work on that a little bit. But the performance against the Eagles, I think that showed you everything you need to know about why he's here, what he did in the playoffs specifically against the Eagles.
All right, because I love this so much, I'm going to do one more. I know Charlie likes to do it too, so we're going to do one more, landing on Andrew Coker.
Andrew Coker, he got in. So the Bengals' depth is so tough that Coker, big Coker, 79, got him on the practice squad in the middle of last season.
315.
Got in. I believe he committed a false start right away, 79. Coker did not fare well. I believe he beat out Caleb Etienne for those opportunities. And again, the Bengals are looking for that swing tackle depth. Devin Cochran has left the door open, but Coker hasn't necessarily risen to the moment.
For everybody watching on the stream, there he is, Andrew Coker, number 79, 6'7", 315 pounds. Before we move on to the Golden Nugget, when the Bengals go to their final 53, how quickly do you think you can name all 53 players? Could you do it in less than 30 seconds?
No.
1 minute?
Give me 90 seconds. I'd have to rattle through it. I'm not a speed guy. I can get it done.
Oh, I've seen you do it with speed before. I'm going to put 1 minute on the clock when the Bengals go to the final 53 and challenge you. Because you're going to rattle through like offensive line and quarterbacks and running backs and wide receivers. It might get a little hairy, I think, on the defense.
I'm setting the expectations low, but hopefully I outperform.
I'm going to set them high.
Just like the Bengals defense.
There you go, Charlie. Okay, Golden Nugget. This is when we dive into Charlie's notebook for a great interview or a great nugget you have about a story you're working on. Go to Charlie's chalkboard right now on fox19now.com/sports. What is your gold nugget to finish out the gold standard?
So this one was your idea to bring it up on the air here. In a press conference yesterday, I asked Zac Taylor about the touchdown throw to Charlie Jones. And Zac's like, yeah, we've run that a lot. Charlie, go through your notes and see how we've run that.
Zac
when
told
we've
you
run
to
that.
do that.
And so I did. And I went through every red zone touchdown that Joe Burrow has thrown in his career. How many of them had a concept where there was and I'm doing this motion on the desk, I guess you call it like there's a name for it. An over would be the word I'm looking for. There you go, Joe. And with a dagger behind it, because the over occupies the first man in man coverage. Dagger takes the second man. He usually has the best leverage. But then if it's zone, you have a hitch behind it that can kind of find the soft space and establish itself. Now, and I told Zac this later when I circled back. I know these all aren't perfect, and there probably are some different concepts in here. But I found at least 15 plays kind of in that same family. And Yoshiash has been good at it.
Yeah.
Higgins has made his plays there. Hudson's been solid as kind of the hitch guy, finding the zone in the middle. Brown's leaked out as the check down guy. What it taught me, and I said this, was a lot of different ways to dress up different concepts. I don't know that I've gone through plays in that way. And all right, here's a play you run, but there's a different formation, or there's a different alignment, there's a different stack, a different bunch. It was fun kind of looking for what are the differences are in these similar concepts.
I wish you could see the twinkle in your eye when Zac challenged you to go find that. I mean, to dive into the football stuff and mirror that up with some stats, that is Charlie's bag. And you had the answer for Zac by the end of practice.
Yeah.
Because he said it in the press conference before practice. Practice was only about an hour and 15 minutes. And there you were with Zac Taylor in the hallway. And I was walking down the hallway. I said to whoever I was next to, I said, I guarantee Charlie right now is telling Zac that he came up with the answer. Okay, follow all of Charlie's work. He's going to be in Arizona for the Reds and Diamondbacks series. Every game for the Reds now feels like it's so important for the rest of the season. Follow his work, Charlie's Chalkboard, fox19.com/sports to stay up to date on everything Charlie has going. Thanks for listening. One of my more favorite episodes we've done so far of The Gold Standard. This was a lot of fun. Follow us every week on all of Fox 19 Now streaming platforms and wherever you listen to your podcasts.